And you're looking at the White House, and behind the front of the house is the Rose Garden, of course, the South Grounds, where at any minute, President Biden will be holding a joint press conference with Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. She's a member of both the Foreign Relations and Armed Services Committees and just returned from a trip to the Indo-Pacific, which included a visit to Japan. You're such an expert on all of this, Senator Shaheen, because we're told the president and the prime minister have been working toward what a top Japanese official called in a recent op-ed in the Washington Post an epic reordering of Japan's military policies, focusing more on mutual defenses against China. As a result of this and a meeting to come that they're going to have with the head of the Philippines, is this not going to lead to more Chinese threats and aggression? And are we getting into a cycle here?
Well, I don't think so. And to go to your earlier segment, one of the things we heard on our trip from Japan officials who we met with, from Republic of Korea officials that we met with, was that they are also very closely following the National Security Supplemental, and they want to see the funds that are in there for the Indo-Pacific, and they are supporting Ukraine in this fight against Russia. And they think it's important to stand up to the territorial infringement that China is doing against Japan's territorial waters, against the Philippines, Vietnam's territorial waters in the South China Sea, the militarization they're doing, and the real violations of international law for freedom of navigation. So we were very pleased. Everywhere we went, people were interested in partnering with the United States.
And in terms of the Chinese threat, there's a new report in Foreign Affairs today that we've been following by an important Republican member, of course, the head of the China Select Committee, Mike Gallagher, who is retiring from Congress. Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin, but he knows that area so well. He's a 7-year veteran of the Marines and a PhD and all of that. Has got a lot of experience. He and Matt Pottinger, a former NSC and State Department official, are saying that the Biden administration is being too conciliatory to China, that we actually could benefit from a tougher stance, and that we're letting China push us around too much, and that actually a new Cold War with China would not be a bad thing as a deterrent. What do you think?
Well, I disagree with their underlying assessment, because what we heard from the countries that we visited, and the Philippines is also going to be part of this trilateral summit with Japan, is the effort to develop our allies, to build up their defense capabilities in the Indo-Pacific, the importance of connecting what's happening in Ukraine and Europe to what China is doing in the Indo-Pacific. We are working with the Philippines. We have a new comprehensive strategic partnership with Vietnam. We have the AUKUS initiative that we're doing with Australia, the United Kingdom, and there are other countries in the region who are interested in joining. And what we're going to hear from Japan is they are doubling their defense budget. They're developing a new counter-strike capability. So they are really ramping up in ways that are important as we look at the threat from the PRC and as we develop those allies that allow us to better push back against what the PRC and the Chinese are doing in that region.
Let me also pivot to Ukraine, where the Senate aid bill, as you know, has been stuck in the House for 2 months. Former President Trump pressuring the Speaker not to even bring it up for a vote. President Zelensky now saying that they could lose the war without these weapons from the U.S., without the ammo. We've got troops in trenches. I mean, he told us that when we were in Munich at the Security Forum in February, and now it's several months later, and there's still no progress on this. What hopes do you have for some kind of an agreement? And will you have to take out the Israel piece of it and maybe more of, the other things that are in that supplemental and just do a Ukraine standalone now that Israel is more controversial? How do you see this playing out?
Well, we can't do that because they can't pass something in the House that's going to come back to the Senate and take an additional month or 2 months to get through the Senate. We need to have the House pass the Senate bill. We had a hearing this morning with USAID Administrator Samantha Power, and one of the things we asked her about is the humanitarian assistance that's in that bill, not just for Gaza, but also for other places in Latin America, in Africa, where they are desperate because famine is hitting there. And what she acknowledged and what members of the committee said is that millions of people are going to die in Ukraine, in Africa, in Latin America, around the world if we don't pass the National Supplemental Security Bill. And the House members who are holding it up, who are perpetuating Russian propaganda in ways that are untrue, are doing a disservice to the nation and to the world.
I should just point out that that point of view is echoed by, two powerful House chairs
Absolutely.
of Intelligence and of Homeland Security, Turner and McCall, who have been speaking out about how Russian propaganda is being repeated by Republican House members on the floor of the House. Unwittingly, presumably, but also not intelligently, and a real threat to the U.S. Thank you, Senator Jean Shaheen. We appreciate it.
Thank you.